On this episode of the Girl Talk podcast,
acknowledge the feeling and then submit it to Jesus. That's when real healing can take place.
Yeah. Hello there. You're listening to the Girl Talk podcast. My name is Carol.
and I'm Kelly.
Hey, I'm Tricia.
And we would like to say a very special thank you to Compassion International for their sponsorship of this season of the Girl Talk podcast. Mm-hmm. They are releasing children from poverty in the name of Jesus. And all three of us have children that we have sponsored, and we love it. We love this program. They are high integrity. They do exactly what they say they're going to do, and they partner with local churches on the ground in whatever country that they're serving in. Today, you can sponsor a child named Kiza. And Kiza is a 7-year-old little girl who lives in Rwanda, which is where my Boaz is as well. She loves drawing and art, and she really enjoys doing arts and crafts as well. So you can go to the Girl Talk website at thelightfm.org/Girl Talk and click on the Compassion banner at the bottom, and right there is where you will find great pictures of Kiza and other children that are ready for a sponsor just like you.
Today, we're going to be talking about mental health. Where are you? Have you really taken a check-in lately to see like where you're at? Because I think we all say it's okay not to be okay. But is that really true? Is it really okay not to be okay? We're going to just talk a little bit about, we're going to kind of lean into you because of your background in social work. And what is the marker for like mental health? Is there a way to gauge where you are? Is there a way to like kind of give yourself a self reflection and kind of see? Because I know before I met you, I really didn't have a frame for doing that. I'd never thought about it, really, to tell you the truth. I just knew that I was having a bad day or whatever, you know. But how do you know when it's just a bad day or when you feel something a little heavier and your mental health is not where it should be?
I think it's really about how much time you're spending in a state of distress. And that might be anxiety, it might be depression, it might be is struggling in some way with something. How much of your day are you spending in that state of distress, and is it changing what you're doing during the day? That's a big marker. If your behaviors are changing, you're spending more time in bed, you are saying no to plans, you are spending more time alone. If you are in school, grades are dropping or performance at work. It's when those things start to happen that you know you really need to start taking some kind of a step towards your own treatment. I think a lot of us deal with a low-level anxiety or depression, and we sort of think about that as our normal. But really, you need to pay attention if things start to change. Your behavior, your performance, that kind of thing.
Yeah, I know that it took somebody from the outside kind of recognizing some things in me,
your behaviors,
saying, I think you might need to talk to somebody. I am a firm believer. I'll say this. I'll go on the record saying this. I'm a firm believer that everybody needs to be in counseling because
Agree.
Because you need some neutral third party to help you process through the things that you're going through in life. And sometimes that doesn't even have to be a big thing. Sometimes it can be just the demands of life itself. So I think for a long time, I thought that you only got depressed if something big happened in your life. Like you went through a divorce or you lost somebody you loved, or, you know, it's all those big events.
Like you were only allowed to be upset if you were going through something.
Or that it was circumstantial.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was my kind of presupposition of what depression was. And then I realized I probably suffered with a low level of it my entire life just because my personality is, there are some things that, but there are also some things that you can do to kind of get yourself out and get yourself back on track. And so let's just talk about what are some of the signs you think, you said, you know, canceling plans or not accepting plans or a change in your behaviors.
Staying in bed, not exercising, not eating well, you know, those sorts of changes.
Yeah.
Functioning.
What have you guys seen maybe in yourself or in friends of yours that behaviors or actions that made you say, you know what, I think we need to get some outside?
I think one of the things that I've seen the most is people not wanting to talk anymore about things.
Yeah.
That they
shut down.
They shut down. They go inward. That even when they're out and about, that there's a lot of stuff going on in their head, and so they're thinking all the time about what their thoughts are. They're thinking about their thoughts, and not able to be present in the moment, and so they're not engaging in the conversation that is with you. I mean, when they're with you, they're very insular and kind of caught up in their own thoughts.
Yeah.
Well, I was thinking, know your people. Know your people. Know what they're typically like, the people that you love, and is there a change? And I will say that we go through moods. I mean, there are moods, and there are things that happen, and there's bad sleep, or there's hormonal things. And so you might notice that your loved one is acting a little bit differently, one day or a couple of days. But if it goes on beyond that, and you know your people, that's when to speak up. Because, Carol, we know when you're down.
Oh, yeah.
We know. We can tell your behavior changes. I love you so much. You're so fun. But I can tell when you've gone insular and you're not looking at us. You're not addressing people. You're spending time. And we all do that to some level.
Sure.
But I use you because you're so fun and vivacious. And when you get down like that, it's an obvious change.
Sure. Yeah, and I will say this too, and there may be somebody listening with a personality similar to mine. Sometimes you can get so good at playing the game that you act one way and then you're something totally different when you're by yourself, or when you go home, you shut the blinds, you close the door. Because that's what happened in my case.
Yeah.
I really didn't. If you would have known what I was going through at that particular time, you wouldn't have necessarily said, I think she's depressed. You wouldn't have said that, because I was doing such a good job, maintaining my life.
Yep, the public version of you.
The public version of me. Yeah, so I agree with that. You do need to know your people. And thank God I had people in my life who could come alongside me and say, there's something kind of off. I mean,
what's really going on? Stop the stuff.
Yeah. And I think too, we have to be, because this was one I would use quite a bit. You mentioned it, and you said when they stop talking about it. I think sometimes we can get in the middle of things and we don't want to talk about it, because we were sitting at the lunch table the other day, and you said, "Do you want to talk about this?" And I was like, "Yeah, I mean, I do," but I think that we're just aware of it. And so if you ask that question, do you want to talk about it, and somebody says no, that's not necessarily a marker for, I need to run out and find them a counselor, or I need to find a counselor. But it might be that just the timing isn't right, because some things that we go through in life, we need. I'm a processor. I don't know about the two of you guys, but I have to process things, so it takes me a while.
Do you process internally or externally?
Internally first, and then externally.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. What about you?
I'm definitely an external processor.
Yeah.
The internal processing anyway, it's like a ping pong ball.
Yeah.
I'll go this way and this way and this way and that way and this way and that way, and I can't stay focused.
I think that makes you a great question asker, because you don't just settle for, I'm fine. You're like willing to ask the next question, and that's a thing I love about you.
Yeah, well, thank you for saying that. I appreciate that, but I also think that we all need those kinds of people in our lives. That we need to find our people, as Jenny Allen would say.
Yeah,
she's written this great Bible study and book called "Find Your People," and it helps you go deep in relationships with people and find those people who will check in with you on a regular basis, who won't just settle for the word. The phrase "I'm fine," but we'll really kind of look into the eyeballs and go, "Okay, I'm seeing it. Are you wanting to talk about this now or not now? Because I'm not going to let you pretend like there's nothing going on, because I can see it in your eyes,
right?
But I'm going to give you the space about whether or not you want to talk about it right now or not talk about it right now. But I'm going to acknowledge to you that I see it in you, and I know there's something spinning around in your head,
right?
But it's having those people who know you well enough to look you in the eyeballs is so incredibly important. Your people.
Yeah. What about you, TK? Are you?
I'm
internal,
like you.
external?
I sort of internally, I go internal, but then when I'm ready, I definitely want to talk about it. I want to talk to my people. I want to talk to anybody.
Yeah.
I actually have zero filter. I'll talk to the person at the grocery store about like what I'm struggling with, which is, it can be okay, but it's a little bit extra.
Yeah.
But yeah, I find that I really need to talk to people.
Yeah.
But first it's internal.
Yeah. And I think too, you kind of poked at this, but you didn't really say it. I think we have to remember that true mental health is a long game.
Yes.
I mean, I can go back and literally make a timeline for you of my mental health journey over the years, and there have been some times that it was very situational. Other times it was just that low level, something's not right, you know. And it freed me to find a Christian counselor to go to, because he said the things that I was internally feeling but afraid to say. And I want to kind of get at this too, because I think a lot of times in spiritual circles, I don't say church circles, I don't want to beat up on the church, I love the church, but I think in church sometimes, and in our spiritual circles of influence, we don't give people permission to need an outside person to speak into their life. You know, we say things like, well, if you just prayed harder, or you know that kind of shaming for needing an outside influence to be able to help us go through. And I, for some reason, I don't know that anybody ever said that to me, but I felt a low level of shame for even having to go to counseling. Like, I can't figure this out on my own. I need to go to counseling. Well, I can't figure my taxes out on my own either.
Right.
That's why I go to a tax professional.
Right.
You know? So I think there's a low level shame of sorts.
And
that
there
comes up
shouldn't
with
be.
place. Yeah.
So there are professional techniques. This is not always. It's not always a faith thing at all.
Yeah.
There are professional techniques that counselors know to help you understand what you're saying.
Right.
And a friend can't do that.
Right.
I have. Yeah. It's asking too much of your friend, really, to be able to. What a professional does is they completely remove themselves from your experience, and they help you understand what you're saying and what you're going through. But a friend can't do that.
Yeah.
A friend's always going through the filter of, ooh, I should be helping them more, or what can I do, or maybe I can tell them about what's going on with me, and that can muddy the waters. So really, it's the difference is going to a professional can help you understand things more. It's not, and then they can help you also. A Christian counselor can help you find the promises you need, and can help hold you accountable, and help you find your avenue for continuing to grow in your relationship. But a professional counselor, it's not a weakness to go to a professional counselor.
Right.
No, in fact,
they
it's a
have the
strength.
skills to help you.
Yeah.
Yes, it is a strength.
I had someone explain it to me. They said, you know, in life you're going to encounter all kinds of different things. Counseling is a tool in your belt.
Yes. Yeah.
Because you find tools there, and I'll just say this because of your clinical background, I think it helps me so much, because I'd never thought about the things I needed to be thinking about. You know, you say a lot, you need to think about what you're thinking about.
Yeah.
And that helped me, because you're like, how are you doing? Like, not how do you feel, but how are you doing?
How are you thinking?
And how are you thinking? Those have been valuable questions.
Yeah.
Just in our interactions around the office, you know, about being mindful of those kinds of things.
I started a new Jenny Allen book called Untangling Your Emotions. This is the follow-up to another Jenny Allen book that I really liked called Get Out of Your Head.
Yeah, that's
this
great.
is a follow-up to that, but it's about this. It sounds like it's counterintuitive, but it's not. It's about understanding your feelings, because so much of the time we think, I'm not supposed to feel that. I'm going to put that feeling away. That feeling is bad. That feeling is wrong. And so therefore I'm going to shove that away. And that manifests poorly with different behaviors, numbing, all kinds of things. But in this book, and I've just started it, she's talking about the fact that that God has feelings. That Jesus had feelings.
Sure.
Feelings are not our enemy. Feelings tell us something. Feelings are there to instruct us. And when we see the feeling or acknowledge the feeling and then submit it to Jesus, that's when real healing can take place.
Yeah.
But healing doesn't happen by ignoring, repressing, or distracting yourself from your feelings. They have to be acknowledged and then submitted to God.
Yeah. And I think, too, a valuable question is if you find yourself sitting in front of a TV for hours.
I
watching
watched Little House on the Prairie 3 hours because I couldn't deal with my life.
Right.
I lived that. I did. Little House, it's a good show. But.
It is a good show. But somebody asked me recently, what are you trying to get away from by doing that habit? Like whatever habit it is, if you like watch a show, and there's nothing wrong with watching a show, but if it's distracting you from dealing with the thing, same with food. I mean, I've been an emotional eater for years, and I remember the first time somebody said, well, you're eating your emotions, and I was like, "What?
Yeah,
that is the craziest thing I've ever
stuffing
heard."
them, you
and
stuff
now,
them down.
It does sound gross, but they're actually very good.
They taste like
but
Doritos.
You know what? I found that when I was by myself, I would eat more, and I was like, "Oh, there's the key right there." You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So, I think I've loved that this person told me that counseling is a tool in your belt, and it definitely is.
You know, one of the other things I think that is a tool in our belt is medical doctors. You know, that especially for women of our age that might be going through menopausal related issues, or people who are perhaps younger than us that are fertile and pregnant. We kind of go through the same kinds of things. That it's that hormonal shift, and with menopause especially, you can very easily have depression issues and anxiety related issues and things of that nature that are hormonal. That by taking a good hormone medicine, you can get yourself back on track and even out things just a little bit better. So it's also
chemical.
There's some great tools that medical doctors have to help also diagnose what's going on in our bodies and figure out what we're deficient in that can then, help us regulate things.
And we have more tools now than ever before. I mean, you've got a watch. Most everybody has a smartwatch these days that can monitor your heartbeat, your heart rate, and help you with
sleep
those
and
things.
all that stuff.
Yeah, sleep's been a huge thing for me, man. I didn't realize that all of those were contributors to, especially in the season where you find yourself with that low level depression when nothing big is going on. Like, I didn't realize sleep affects that, exercise affects that,
And just in general, our cycles affect all of that. I mean, even when you're not menopausal or not pregnant, it's our cycles can have a huge impact on our hormonal levels, which have a huge impact on our mental health.
Yeah. So if somebody's listening to this and they're like, yes, I'm checking all the boxes of the things that you're saying, even either the behaviors or in your body you feel like there's something that's not right. What do you think is a good time to ask for help, either from a medical doctor and then get their recommendation on whether or not you don't have to have a recommendation to go to counseling, but they might recommend that as part of your treatment? What are some things that you think is like, if you're to that point, you probably ought to make a phone call today?
Well, I just want to say I am actually on a wait list for a Christian therapist.
Yeah.
So there may be somebody out there who's wanting that and is not able to get in yet. So it is helpful to think about other ways we can help ourselves as we wait for the next level of treatment. But I recommend talking to your friends for sure, not expecting therapy from your friends, but talking to your friends. Because when you start talking about something, we've talked about it before, nothing healthy grows in the dark. And when you are having an experience and but you're not talking about it, it's just growing bigger and bigger and bigger. But when you talk to your friend, maybe say, I'm really anxious. I've been struggling with anxiety. You're not asking them for therapy. You're just opening up, taking the first step in getting some help, because then your friend might help you talk about different things. Your friend might help you kind of bounce back and forth. Yeah. But we do need to open up with our friends. We talked about know your people, know the right people. Don't be like me and talk to the person at the grocery store. They're not going to help you. But know the people that love you and care for you. And maybe the people at your church, and opening up that door to start talking about it. Just start.
Yeah.
I think one of the other things we need to recognize too is that there are very many levels of mental health related issues.
Yes, it's a continuum.
Just like there are many layers of physical health.
Sure.
You know, that you might have a little bit of high sugar, or you might have, your blood pressure is just a little bit elevated, or you might be just a little bit overweight. And so you're having a little bit of low level health issues, or you might have, a stage 4 of some sort of awful disease. And so there's that kind of continuum in our physical health. There's also that kind of continuum in our mental health. So kind of assessing how big of an issue do you have? Is it something where you need to see a psychiatrist and get some sort of diagnosis for, schizophrenia or bipolar disease or something like that?
Or even generalized anxiety disorder.
Yeah. So there's some things that are on the, mental health spectrum that are very significant that other people can help you recognize that you need to go see a different level of professional about. And then there are things low level depression and anxiety that, just having a counselor on retainer or seeing someone on a regular basis is the best thing to do. That's, what I do. That's what, you do, Carol. I know
That's what I'm trying to do.
I keep it waiting for 2 years.
That's right.
I have been with my counselor for 17 years, I'm going to say.
Oh, that's great.
17 years.
And there's sometimes I walk into my counselor appointment, I'm sure it's the same with you, where I feel like everything's okay and I don't really have a whole lot I need to talk about.
I do until I get into the chair.
Right,
and then
yes.
he starts asking me questions like, Dadgummit, I was having a great day.
That's right.
Yeah.
You digging.
Yeah.
And for those reasons, I think it's really important that we keep those appointments. So finding someone you can see on a regular basis who will also look you in the eyeballs and say, hey, I'm going to ask you a question that's going to be kind of hard because you seem like you're doing all right today. So I'm going to, get underneath that probably fake facade and see what else is going on.
Let me ask a question here because I'm not sure about this, but could a counselor then refer you to if there's a deeper issue they feel like something that you need to either be medicated for, so they can refer you from there, so that they can help you.
And I think they have to.
Yeah. Okay.
By law,
so you
they
don't have,
can't
because I get scared with people
and
saying I'm going to self-diagnose, and decide which avenue I need to go. So the counselor is the place to start, and then they can.
And your medical professional can also as well. They're trained in some level for that, for like the high view of it. But I wanted to speak on the parameters because you guys have touched on that a couple of times. There are some parameters that can help you make a decision about kind of when you need to take the next steps for treatment, and that's a frequency of symptoms and intensity of symptoms.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
And I'm not remembering exactly the numbers, but it's something like if you're struggling with depressive thoughts 4 out of 5 days, or if the intensity level would be considered 5 to 10 out of 1 to 10. I mean, those are things that can help you take a snapshot of how you're feeling.
Yeah.
Because it's hard to really think about, well, how am I doing? Well, ask yourself, the past 5 days, how many days have you had those symptoms? And how extreme have they been? And how much has your behavior changed? Those are just some quick parameters to help you understand where you are in the continuum.
Yeah. Good stuff. So I think I want to just kind of rewind back to where we started from and just say, do I need to go for counseling? I would say yes, because I think everybody should. And it might take you a while to get in. But I do think that's a valuable tool to help you work through. And I would say I would make sure that if they aren't a Christian counselor entitled, they're a counselor that's a Christian. Does that make sense?
Yes. Yeah.
Because they have a whole different bottom line. They have a whole different foundation that they're building on when you go to a secular counselor as opposed to a...
I have a friend who's going through some marital issues and went to a secular counselor, and the counselor said, have you thought about getting a boyfriend?
What?
Yes. So yes, be very careful that you go to a Christian counselor. Thankfully, my friend was like, yes, I've thought about that, and I have decided that's a really bad idea. No, don't encourage me to
be
do that.
Be aware of who you're asking for advice on any level. It's like 100%. Proverbs says, a wise man, not someone that's
a foolish,
considered a fool.
Yeah, absolutely. So if you're going through a struggle, though, here's the thing. We love you,
yes,
and we want to put you in touch with the resources that you need. If you ever feel like you don't want to be here anymore, you don't want to do this, you're in a suicidal state of mind, please get help.
Yes.
Please get help. There's a national suicide hotline. There's all sorts of places. Focus on the Family has a great mental health line that you can call, and they'll put you in touch with a local counselor wherever you live. And that's a great service, but you can talk to somebody. The Billy Graham prayer line's a great resource if you're feeling that way.
You can text help and get links to those things, right?
Okay, yep. You can text help to 800-293-1069. Don't give up.
Yes.
We love you. It's okay to ask for help. In fact, we'd be crazy not to. You know, I think about if you broke your leg, you would go get that fixed, right? We wouldn't just tell you, walk it off. If you just keep on going, then it'll get better. That's crazy talk. Same thing with our mental health. I think we're more focused now than ever before on mental health, but I don't think we individually, we're worried about the mental health of the people around us and not really ourselves. So it's time to do a check-in. So just do a check-in with yourself. See where you're at. Maybe you want to make that phone call today. Maybe you want to send us a prayer request. We'd love the opportunity to pray for you. You can email us at girltalk@thelightfm.org. And like I say, we do a happy dance every time we get an email, and we love hearing from you. And thank you to Compassion International for being a part of the Girl Talk podcast.
Yes, we are still looking for a sponsor for Kiza. She is 7 years old and lives in Rwanda, and you can see her picture and the picture of many, many more when you go to thelightfm.org/Girl Talk. And click on the Compassion banner, and Carol clearly has something she wants to say.
Well, we didn't mention this, but sometimes helping other people helps you too.
That's true.
And so maybe that's a way
Part
that
of the
you
healing.
can get involved with a child today through Compassion International.
And to see the joy in their face when they send you pictures, and the joy in their words when they write you a letter, when they live in some of the most horrible conditions of poverty all around our world. But to see that they find their hope in Christ will give you everything you need to be able to focus on Him as well.
Yeah, so go check that out. And we'll see you next time we gather around these microphones for the next Girl Talk podcast.